Reverend Emerson, check 1, 2, check 1, 2, check 1, 2.
I would like to call the Board of Managers meeting to order and welcome all that's here. And so, Leanne, would you come forward and do the opening prayer?
Will you please pray with me? Gracious God, in this season of Thanksgiving, we lift our hearts in gratitude. We're grateful certainly for our board members, our executives, all our leaders, our team members, and especially we're grateful for our patients, our true north, the whole reason why we're here. We're grateful for all the guests in our hospital, for our community, and for all those who partner with us in our mission. We're so excited and grateful for the groundbreaking of our new psychiatric emergency center and for all those who are making this exciting future possible. It's only just the beginning. Dear God, we have so much to be thankful for. So we ask today, open our hearts, unite our efforts, and remind us today of how many people are grateful for us, for this work that we're doing on this day and all the days to come, as it will make a difference to more people than we can even imagine. For all this, and in your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Dorothy, before you pledge allegiance, we honor Veterans Day, those who have served.
Right. Thank you. All right, I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have a veteran program?
We do have it in there.
Okay, all right. I won't take your thunder. Okay, all right. Do we have any citizens wishing to address the board? Okay. Then we will go forward with our agenda. So are there any corrections to the minutes from October the 13th? There being no correction, I'll entertain a motion for approval. Okay, it's been motioned by Zim, second by Steve Montgomery. All those in favor of approval of the minutes signify by saying aye. Those opposed by nay. Motion passes unanimous. For my little brief report, remember the NRP group, the building, that apartment? They are doing an update to the court next Tuesday. It's kind of the same thing that they did here, but they're doing an update with the court. The compensation ad hoc committee, we met, and we have working with a consultant group. We will be bringing back recommendations. And finally, our finance committee that's meeting next week, I need for it to be a board meeting too, so that we can move forward with some action items that we need to complete before the end of the year. All right? Any question? All right, thank you. All right, Dr. Duncan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're very busy across the hospital in all areas, both in our ED and in our inpatient care areas. We are in low COVID community spread with no patients in our ICU, so that's great and shows that the vaccine is working. As far as flu, though, we are seeing some widespread community activity for flu activity, and a number of cases are starting to present to JPS, and so we will be watching that closely. We had our Psychiatric Emergency Center groundbreaking ceremony that, thanks to you, members of the board, many of you were there, along with our commissioners and with our judge. It was a great ceremony, and we look forward to the December 7th groundbreaking ceremony for the Southwest Medical Home. So that should also be exciting. We should all be very proud of the work that's been done over this last year and how we're moving forward. So thanks to you, and thanks to the staff who have been working on that. In addition to the comment that you made, Reverend Emerson, about tomorrow being Veterans Day, we do have a Veterans Day program tomorrow here. You said that you were looking forward to that returning to JPS, and so we're doing this especially as part of that request. Don't say we never hear you and we don't do anything, as I say to individuals. But tomorrow morning at 7:30, we will have a program here, and Reverend Emerson will be given the invocation, and so we're looking forward to that. One of our guest speaker is really one of our employees, Lieutenant Sammy Webb, who is an Army retired veteran. So we're looking forward to that program. Please join us. As far as community activities, I did want to let the board know, because you may hear as you're out in the community, that there is now a maternal and infant coalition group that is being led by Mayor Price and Commissioner Brooks. Their first meeting was earlier this month, held at the UNT campus, and the members, or the representation there was from many, if not most, of the hospital system CEOs were there, along with some of the community groups. Our FQHC representation was there. It was a time to kind of set what the work would be done out of that coalition group, but more importantly, to understand what work is already being done across the community. And so this is opportunity for all of that work to come together and to put it into a process, for lack of a better word, but to take all of that work that's going on across the community and make it more collaborative and more beneficial to the families of Tarrant County. So I will keep you updated, but I'm sure many of you called as some of that work is starting to roll out.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure can.
That's also in reference to infant mortality. Is that the gist of it? Or?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I just didn't know about it, else I would have been there. But JPS in past has been a key partner in that.
And they are a big partner. Dr. Senga, who oversees chair of our Women's and Children's program here, will be a big, or have a large component of that work that's going on. Let's see, I think that is it as far as our community activities. I just want to end by recognizing Dr. Tsai. Dr. Tsai is a family medicine physician who has practiced family medicine for over 30 years. She has been with JPS since 1995, and she is not here, I don't believe. But she has been here since 1995. She currently works at our Northeast Medical Home in Tarrant County. But she was recognized and named Texas Family Physician of the Year. That is huge. And so she is an amazing provider. I most recently had opportunity to speak to her, and she really made me want to go back into practice as she showed me pictures of her families that she's followed over the many, many years. She serves on the faculty, I believe, of all the academic institutions here. She's also serves on a lot of community groups, and so I did want to bring that to the board, that we are very proud to have Dr. Tsai among us. And with that, Madam Chair, I have no further update.
Thank you. Do anyone have any questions? All right. Okay, then we'll move on to item 7. Dr. Miles.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to give you a quick medical staff update. We had our 2022 annual meeting on this past Tuesday, just 2 days ago. We attempted a new format where it was a joint meeting of the medical staff and the medical executive committee, and I'm happy to report that we had 101 attendees at the meeting. It was a hybrid, in-person or remote, but there was, I could say, over 100, because there were 101 members of the medical staff who logged in. So I'm really excited about that level of engagement. So I think we'll continue using that format moving forward. The bulk of the meeting was devoted to annual reports. That's always also something very new. So there was a president's report about all the activities of the MEC. year-to-date, and then we also heard from all of the major committees. So the peer review committee reported, the quality committee, the physician wellness committee, we all had reports given to the medical staff so that they're well aware who's on the committee, what is the committee doing, and what their accomplishments were. So I've gotten really good feedback so far, and I just want to let you know that that was a big success for us. One of the major things we did accomplish at that meeting was we approved amendments to our bylaws. Remember, you all approved bylaws for us last summer, 2021, and we're due for an annual review, which we completed, and the medical staff has approved those amendments. Don't get scared. It's not 100 pages of reading. It's a very small number of amendments. We've given you an executive summary, and we'll be submitting those for approval, hopefully at the board meeting. Rhonda McGinnis, part of Daphne's team, has already reviewed those and is willing to move those on. So hopefully we'll get those to you before the end of the calendar year. All right, the real business of today is there are 8 delineation of privilege forms here for your review. We are on track to complete this project by the end of first quarter 2023, which is what I promised you at the beginning of the year. We're still on track. So there are 8 forms before you today. I will entertain any questions you might have about the additions or deletions to those forms.
Are there any questions? Okay. So can we take them all as a group? Okay. Then I will consider approval of the delineation of privilege of 1 through 8, which is critical care, orthopedics, infectious disease, pathology, surgical oncology, neurology, preventive medicine, and radiology positions.
I move for approval.
Okay, Charlie?
Second.
Second by Steve. Okay.
And it was on time.
There being no other questions, those that approve signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed by nay. Motion passes unanimous. Now we're into committee reports. We'll start first with Finance Committee. Mr. Nguyen.
Madam Chair, we met on October 27th, and there's a few activities going on with the health system. I believe our auditor are on site, and the finding and the report will be available for the FY22 audit at the December 15 board meeting. Also, JPS is moving forward with the bond document for the February issue date, and I think we'll hear some of that stuff later on today. September year-end financial result in a very favorable operating income of $145 million compared to $105 million budgeted. Throughout the year, our inpatient volume were below budget, while outpatient was above budget. We also received the HARP funds of $38 million were received in September, with a total of about $68.7 million of supplemental funding being received in the last quarter of the year, which is a good pickup there. We still have escalating salary costs, premium pay, and contract labor that impacted on year-end 2022. A claim ended the year with a loss of $32.3 million compared to budget of $43 million. With strong volumes, lower purchase service and savings due to open position accounted for a favorable outcome. On our agenda today, we have 16 contracts that were approved from the committee, and we'll be asking for the full board approval today. That's our report, ma'am.
That's it. Any questions of DT? Thank you, DT. All right, Trent, Planning Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As in keeping, our Planning Committee is generally today just working on Steering Committee again. Nothing of any particular note on the Planning Committee itself other than our regular updates for capital. But the Steering Committee did meet just to kind of keep you up to speed with everything we're doing. Most of the effort has really been working through Price Waterhouse, trying to make sure that we are keeping alignment with costs and the anticipated increase in capital expenditures relative to the bond campaign and how we're filtering back through operationally and what that looks like over a schedule of time. That's going to be an ongoing effort. You'll hear a lot more about that over the next few weeks, but the good news is that there is meaningful progress being made. And, you know, I know 3 or 4 months of us, all of us were a little worried. Are we going to actually be able to move through phase 2 without having some significant cash flow issues? And I'm happy to say that Price Waterhouse is doing a great job illustrating to us how that might be able to be avoided. There's still going to be some challenges, but much more optimistic than we have been. So good news on that front. As you all probably read on your email, we did close on Medical Home Southwest property, which is really
right. Yes.
a long issue that each one of you have poured your heart and time and blood into. So that's done. The City Council has unanimously approved it. P&Z has unanimously approved it. So all we got to do now is get out there and put a shovel in the ground, which is 12/7. Right, December 7th. Put that on your calendar because that will be the groundbreaking for Medical Home. Other than that, I think you're going to hear, I'll save for Chris and Bob and Jonathan the discussion about our upcoming bond program. And there's a lot of detail that we're going to get into with that today, but not just today, but also next week. Will Murphy with K Strategies is managing, if you remember, our community advisory group. That group's being put together, selection criteria. The commissioners are very happy with that effort. It seems to be going exactly like we hoped. So bond project updates. SAC Emergency Center, thank you for all of you that were there on the 26th. Great job by the staff. You guys did a fantastic job putting that together. A lot of folks there. It was a really cool event. Our parking garage schematic 75% complete now, so we're moving forward quickly on that. Temporary parking, H.J. Russell, we're looking at subcontractor bids on that and preparing for a permit. So lot of progress on the bond committee. I was really I'm never surprised by what I read in the Star Telegram. But when I read that JPS should, quote, be kicked in the pants to move forward the bond project faster, I thought we should invite them here, come and watch this process. But a lot of progress being made, and even without being kicked in the pants, we still seem to be doing pretty well, Madam Chairman. So that completes my report. If you got any questions, I'll be happy to answer them for you.
No questions, but thank you, Trent, for all your work and effort that you've put into that.
Thank you.
All right, then we will move to item 9. Sharon, you want to come up and introduce the bond issuance update?
Thank you. I brought a few friends with me today. We have our financial advisor, Chris Janning with Hilltop. I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves a little and tell you more about what their role is and why it's important that they be here to talk to you today. We also have Don Gonzalez, who is a co-financial advisor in attendance as well. And then we have our co-bond counsels with Kelly Hart and Holman, Jonathan Krantz, and Bob Dransfield with Norton Rose Fulbright, which is still hard for me to say. But anyway, I'll let you start, and then we'll just go that way.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, you all. I am Bob Dransfield with Norton Rose Fulbright. We are your co-bond counsel for projects that you have going on. We do that with Kelly Hart and Holman. I've been doing that for some time. And one of our roles really is to ultimately conclude the work that you're doing is set up in a manner that's going to be sufficient to allow you to issue tax-exempt bonds. So the marketplace is going to be looking for our opinions, for example, to make sure the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, so that at the end of the day they can know that these projects are sufficiently processed to enable that interest on those obligations to be construed as tax-exempt. So we're kind of a watchdog in some respects, help oversight the projects, make sure that they're consistent with the required tax laws and requirements for that. So at the end of the day, we'll render an opinion that references the interest on the obligations are tax exempt. But leading up to that, we do a lot of other things that Jonathan can talk a little bit about as well. But we were very instrumental in getting the bond election papers prepared. We'll go ahead and process the transaction ultimately through the Attorney General's office and things like that are, in some respects, routine, but oftentimes pretty necessary. So we're just looking forward to that process as you all would direct us.
Good afternoon. I'm Chris Janning with Hilltop Securities. Thank you for having us back. We are your co-financial advisor along with Estrada Hinojosa and Mr. Gonzalez. Our role is we are your fiduciary advisors. We look after your best interest as you prepare to go into these capital markets. Like the last time I was here, it's been interesting times this year, but I'm pretty excited that we're ready to go. Now that we're going to move into the transaction phase, Hilltop and Estrada will also serve, if you will, as the quarterbacks for the financing team, and I'm going to brief you a little bit. There are about to be a lot of firms and a lot of faces as we go now through the sale.
Jonathan Kranz with Kelly Hart, co-bond counsel with Bob. I think Bob summed it up nicely. We just try to make sure that when we get this down through the AG's office at Austin, they don't have anything to nitpick on, and then we try to make sure the IRS doesn't ever come calling again.
So let me see if this is up and going. So we've got a couple of slides for you here today. First, Chris is going to give you a good overview of what the market is doing today and what the expectations will be for February. We've also got kind of an org chart, that list of players and what roles they will be playing over the next few months. And then we also have kind of a high-level calendar of events that may interest you. So Chris, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Fantastic. And I am going to go through this. Please, if anybody has questions, ask me. I tried, preparing. I want this to be a briefing, but I want you all as board members to know what you're likely to hear questions about as we go through the issuance process, which will be a public process and a very public process. As Sharon said, the bottom line is even starting now, believe it or not, it's going to be late February before we get this thing inked. That said, if you look, what's the current market? One thing that we as advisors hear a lot is, oh my, inflation's been running rampant, interest rates have gone up sharply, and it's a horrible time to be selling bonds. And with all due respect, no, it's not. If you look at the bottom the bottom picture, that is the AAA index for the United States, and it goes back, as you can see, to 2012 and carries forward through year to date now. Looking off to the right, yes. Through late 2019 until this year, rates were at all-time lows. That was because the Fed was doing quantitative easing, and it was artificial lows. It was a great environment. But if you look at where rates are today, you'll notice, we're sitting just above the mean, and the rates are every bit as normal as they were in 2014 or 2016. It's still a good time to be borrowing money. If you look up at the top, there are three rates there. The bottom line, the green line, is the AAA interest rate, and the benchmark. The middle line, and excuse me, I misspoke. That was the rates as 2021. The middle line is where they are as of May, the last time we briefed you this year. And then, of course, the light blue line on the top shows you where they are as of last week. Now, when we look at the middle graphic, why do I have that on there? There's three and one's hard to make. There's a dotted line, and that is the average of the AA GO, that AA being where you are right now, to the AAA GO. The dark blue line is, or I guess, is the 20-year AA, AAA, but the light blue line is the A, rated bonds. And why do I have that on there? You remember back when we were here last, we had told you that the rating agencies had both talked to us. We do annual visits with them. And they had told us, look, you're doing very well. We're going to hold your ratings where they are, but you have virtually no debt as a district. But when you go to start issuing these and you're really going to start rolling these projects out, we're going to downgrade you. That's what, if you really read the report, that's what they're saying. We believe them. Our question is, we could, and we model, we work with Sharon and her team. Those are their opinions. There are 4 rating agencies. We'll use 2 of them. We haven't selected them yet because you haven't given us the go-ahead. We're going to start that today. But next I'm going to talk to you about the managing underwriters, and I want to get their opinions on which 2 of the 4 to use. Don and I agree on that. But as to interest rate, you could hold the AA category that you're in, and you may fall to there's AA minus, AA plus. All of the rating categories have those minus, neutral, plus. But you may fall to the high end of the A. We don't know. There are a couple of those agencies are awfully negative. Also, the healthcare, all of the big nonprofits have been reporting their September numbers and their quarterly numbers. I know it's hard to believe, but across the board, any nonprofit system with a positive operating margin is a statistical outlier. Across the board, the nonprofits, even the big systems, have negative or reporting negative margins. Coupled with that, most of them report at the September 30th date, and they had to mark to market their balance sheet assets, and their investments include equities and alternative investments. So you can imagine, there were some 30+% declines in value on balance sheet reserves that were reported. That's, those are unrealized losses, but they have to report mark to market. That's what I'm just telling you. It's a very, very stressed time in healthcare as an industry. And the rating agencies, of the 4, 3 of them use those benchmarks, and they evaluate public hospitals on the basis of those medians before they assign their GO rating, believe it or not. Don't like their methodology, disagree with it, but that's why you saw Parkland lose its AAA that they had. That's why you saw University in San Antonio, the Bear District, lost their AAAs and are AA plus now, because there just are not AAAs anymore. That's the key point. As you all talk to your commissioners, as you talk to your public, if you get asked, but the county bonds, and it's the same tax base, and it's the same economy, and the county's AAA, why aren't we AAA? Because you can't get there by the published methodologies of the rating agencies. We're not going to be AAA. Let's go to the next slide. Again, just another way to look at these average rates. This one goes all the way back and runs averages to 1993. So, the red line is the average of the market smoothed across the interest rate curve from 1993 coming forward. The blue line is what our current interest rate curve looks like. Again, on the short end, the one through, years 1 through 9, we are a little higher than average, but we're right at average on the long end, and most of your capital cost is going to be weighted, and our blended cost of capital is going to fall right into that average is what we would currently expect. We mentioned that the group's about to get bigger. You've been visiting with your legal team and us, your advisors heretofore. Starting this afternoon, we're going to have to start dealing with the bond underwriters as we prepare. We want to give them a fair chance to tell us what their sales desk would prefer. We're going to lean on them to put it to work to get us the lowest and best interest rate. We like to listen to what they say. But As importantly, we have a draft prospectus ready to go out to them, but we're going to need them to hire their legal counsel to look at our work on the prospectus. That's something they have to do securities law-wise, and we need to get that process started. Finally, Don and I have agreed neither of our firms has cornered the market on brains when it comes to approaches to rating agencies. They sell opinions. We're paying for the service. We might as well get the value of the insight with the rating agencies of your managing underwriters. So that said, we have made a recommendation, and our managing underwriters are going to be Siebert. They were the firm that led the county's bonds. We actually made this recommendation before we knew that the county had used them. So we have good reason to believe, blind hog luck, happenstance, the county will be comfortable with that recommendation. To go with Siebert as a co-senior, because the statistics, when we look at and had to make the recommendation, the two firms are just neck and neck in qualifications. But JP Morgan Chase, they had been locked out of the Texas market early on by the guns and gas legislation the legislature passed, but just about 3 weeks ago they were pulled off that list and they are cleared for business in Texas. They've been your lead underwriter, they've been the county's lead underwriter, they have strong local presence, and we brought them up as a co-senior. So we're going to have Siebert, who we knew could lead this from the get-go and had recommended him to be the book runner, but we're going to have Chase sit with them. Joining them, we also, because it's such a large issue, we recommended some co-managers, Citigroup, Piper Sandler, and Ramirez. And again, that was conducted, we looked at market, Texas, healthcare, geo market, national, experience with the districts. There was a lot of discussion between us and your executive management team before we made that recommendation. Lastly, what do we need to do here on going forward? And this is why we invited these bond lawyers up here in case you have questions. You cannot issue debt on your own. Your board, ironically, under state law, cannot issue your debt. Any debt obligation over 1 year has to be authorized by the county commissioners. It's your debt, your tax rate, your credit, but the commissioners have to do it. Likewise, in Texas, any bond debt has to be validated by the Attorney General. That said, we're briefing you today. We're going to come to you, to the Board of Managers on the 17th, and ask you to pass a resolution formally requesting that the commissioners pass the first bond order. That bond order is going to have blanks for and they're going to delegate you. We're going to put a not to exceed amount in there. We're going to put a maximum interest rate, which gives us plenty of market cushion, and we're going to put the maximum maturity of 30 years in there. But it'll leave blanks as to negotiating the call provisions. We expect that to be a 10-year par call, but if we can get shorter without paying a penalty, that's stuff that will be negotiated in February and finalized. That authority under that order is going to be delegated to Dr. Duncan and to Sharon as your CEO and your CFO. Again, after you pass your resolution requesting the county to pass that order, we're going to take it to the county on the 13th. We mentioned ratings. We're going to have those rating meetings or calls. Most of them are virtual calls now in January, the week of the 24th. We expect to have those ratings by the first week of February. We expect to be able to price and lock in the interest rates in the final terms February 16th, and you'll have your money in mid-March.
So that's a lot of information. Again, next week at the board meeting, we will be coming to you. The blanks that Chris was referring to is going to be about a $450 million ask, up to $450 million. And at that point in time, I'll bring a schedule of projects and some of the assumptions of what we're funding with cash versus what we are going to be requesting to be funded by the debt. The first tranche of debt that we're talking about will cover almost everything up to the construction of the new towers, which would be the second tranche of debt. And that's where we would pick up the difference between what we issue today and the $800 million that we are authorized. So, and then we will be, Dr. Duncan and I will meet individually with the commissioners before the presentation on the 13th, just to make sure that we bring to that meeting on the 13th any questions that they may need answered. Is there any questions I can answer for you guys?
Commends in the process. At that particular point in time, you won't know the ratings until after all these approvals are in. So that's why you'll set the parameters within the document.
That's correct.
Because, I mean, that's going to be a big, I think you laid it out there very well, but I do know the county is AAA. We talk about if we didn't get that, I think that probably raise some questions. I think it needs to be explained and that everybody knows that. So anyway, that's the only point I want to make. We're going to be asking them to make decisions before they know the final rating of those bonds, which affects our price. Okay. Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
Chris, how big of an interest? What other health cares are selling?
It's 60 basis points. It's on that, it's 60 basis points is the spread. Now, the spread between the AA and the AAA is 35, so.
Twice as much.
Yeah.
And you can see those spreads kind of blew out with when the Fed started tightening rates.
Yeah. And nobody knows what the Fed's going to do. I was on the call with the Fed this morning because obviously that's my world, but you know, the market's up 1,000, NASDAQ's up 645, so we sit here right now. Everybody thinks maybe it's over. I'd just say the timing is just, I think we need to explain that we may get a lower bond rating. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just where we are in comparison with healthcare. We're not the county, even though they're approving it. So anyway, I appreciate your comments, Chris. Like I said, I worked with all three of those firms for many years. Y'all know what you're doing. So thank you.
You guys see any potential of either buyers or other elements of this team that will not participate in this because of the guns and gas list?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
Are there any other?
I think it's important they're back in. Yeah, they know this. They know this institution. I'm glad they're back in. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Any other questions?
Bob does have one clarification.
Madam Chair, just to point out to you all, the only thing that the Commissioners Court does is that December 13th action item. That's the last official action that they need to take because they're delegating that other authority to finalize the details of that. So just be aware that that's going to be the only action item meeting that the court's going to need to entertain to authorize the issuance of these bonds.
yeah. That's good.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, of course, so they
It's better. Okay, thank y'all. Thank you, Cheryl. Okay?
Thank you. I have to say yes or risk.
We are to item 10, the consent agenda. Are there any items that anyone need to remove from the consent agenda? There being none? Yes. Okay. Ralph has moved approval of the consent agenda, second by Zim. Okay. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda signify by saying aye. Those that are opposed by nay. Motion passes unanimous. Okay. All right. Do we have any? There's no. There is. Okay, so we are down to closed session, right? Correct. Okay. So at this time, we will end the public meeting and go into closed session at 15 minutes till 2. complete. That is on the privilege. Can I get a motion for approval of the privileges? Okay, Steve and DT. All those that approve of the privileges signify by saying aye. Aye. Those that oppose by nay. Motion passes unanimous. There being no further business, we are adjourned.